Seer anointing. I want to talk to you about the seer, the realm, the seer realm, the seer realm. So there is in the scriptures, there is a difference between a prophet and a seer, but the Hebrew word for seer is different than the Hebrew word for the one that speaks. A seer is a prophet that sees and not hears. Now, some seers can hear, but most seers can see. The word sight. Roe, and chose are the Hebrew roles for seer. We see that mentioned in the book when it talks about Samuel. They called him a seer. Samuel was a seer prophet. Now, as you can be a seer type person, a believer that sees without being an actual seer in the scriptures. There's a difference between a believer that sees. Every believer should be able to see in the spirit to some degree, which means you can be a believer and have dreams, have visions. You can be a pastor, you can be a teacher, an evangelist. Just because you are a person that sees does not make you a seer, because a seer is a prophet of God that has the secrets and mysteries of God. God shows them and calls them to speak divine truths to the people of God. But there are also people who can see and speak for the Lord. And so how does God speak to these seers? These seers, which I believe seers are alive today, God uses me to see, God uses other people around the country to see, is they are God speaks to them through dreams and visions, We see all throughout the Old Testament that God spoke to, even from Samuel at a young age. He was having these supernatural experiences. And one of the things that'll mark the life of a seer is that they will be marked by supernatural encounters with the Lord. Seers will be marked with visions, trances, angelic experiences, where that's how God deals with seers. Seers is something you can't pray to be a seer. God has to call you, like he called Jeremiah. He said, from your mother's womb, I knew you and called you to be a prophet or a seer. And so many people are praying. Many people are asking to be a prophet. They want to be a prophet, but there's nothing you can pray for. It is when you see, it is something given to you from birth. Most people were born with this ability to see in the spirit. God can speak to you visionary through pictures. It's not always open trances. Sometimes it's pictures in your mind's eye, where they call it the third eye. Some people call it the third eye, but it's not the third eye. It's called your spiritual eyes. But that imaginary realm, that imagination, that's where God will speak to you in pictures. That's a seer gifting. God speaks to you through open visions, where you see, where it's almost like you see that it's like 3D. It's like you have your eyes open, but you can see it like a picture. Closed visions, dreams, where you go to bed and you have vivid dreams and they come to pass. This is how God begins to minister and use the seer, versus the nabi or nabi, which is when God, that's what I am, and God speaks to you through that uttering. He speaks to you audibly. He's that bubbling up, that more sensitive. You're a discerner. God speaks to you through that realm. Now, why is this important? Because in Joel 2, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh, and sons and daughters shall prophesy. So the language of God in the last days will be a prophetic anointing poured out on all his people, for them to have visions and dreams. So this seer anointing will mark the end time generation. The seer anointing will mark the youth, the millennials, the Gen Zers. This will be a generation that will begin to have divine visitations from heaven. They will begin to have angelic visitations. We have to be able to teach as pastors. We will have people coming to our church. See, we have too long forsaken this realm to the witches, the warlocks. And this is why so many young believers are attracted to these witches, to these warlocks, because there is a desire in them from the supernatural, but the church has rejected the visionary realm and have released that realm to witches. But God has always been the one that did it first, and the devil replicated it. And so I wanted to teach you that the seer realm is for you, that you can pray for God to open your spiritual eyes. Even in Ephesians, it says, ask God to open your spiritual eyes so that you will see in the spirit what God is doing, what God is saying. Ezekiel was a seer. All throughout the scriptures, we see seers that were able to see great things for God. Subscribe to our channel today. God bless you. This is Prophet Wells.